Hi, NAPO community. It's your president, Mindy Gotting. I'm really excited to be here with you. I have an extremely special guest today, someone who is outside of our organization, and I'm excited to introduce all of you to her and let you hear more about the work that she's been doing with NAPO. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sarah Sladek. Welcome,
Well,
Sarah.
hey, Mindy. Hello, NAPO. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So, for those of our viewers who don't know, why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about the work that you do in your company?
Sure. So I am the founder and CEO of XYZ University, which basically stands for Generations X, Y, and Z. We help organizations plan for their futures and to be mindful of some of the market shifts that are happening, including demographic shifts, so that you stay relevant to the next generation always. And a lot of the work we do is with membership organizations. We do a little work with corporations, but it's predominantly membership associations. And I've authored some books for membership associations looking at changing membership engagement behaviors and cycles and trends. And so it's an absolute joy to be working with NAPO at this time as well.
Fantastic. I know. So, tell everyone a little bit more about what work we're doing together. So, what did NAPO contract XYZ to do?
Yeah, so NAPO came to us and said, "Help! We are experiencing some membership decline." And some of that decline, there's a variety of reasons for that. That's not actually unusual. We're seeing a lot of associations experience decline right now because the market is just simply changing. It's shifting. And that's requiring associations to think a little bit differently about their positioning in the marketplace, their target market, because we're seeing, changes in human capital and the workforce and all of that, new demographics coming into the fold. So essentially, NAPO said we're at a crossroads. We're seeing some decline. We want to make sure we stay relevant. We want to position our organization as a leader. We want to be sustainable. We want to grow. There's lots of untapped opportunities. So we're coming in and we're essentially kind of doing the behind the scenes, the homework first. So lots of research, analysis, looking at that positioning, looking at what members really want. And then we're going to create a strategy based on all this data we gather to position NAPO a little bit differently and start working on that member engagement a little differently so the organization can grow.
Yes, a big project, and we are so excited to have you helping us along the way. And I also wanted to share with everyone, so you have a podcast that is phenomenal. So for anyone who's interested in learning more about Sarah and the work that she does, she mentioned she's got several books that are out. But tell everyone just quickly about your podcast.
Sure. So my podcast is the Membership IQ. And basically, my little tagline is that's where you go to get smart about membership. And I've been working in this membership arena for about 20 years. And what's really interesting is that there really isn't any official training that you go to learn about membership. So I'm hoping to change some of that, starting with the podcast, and we're in the process of building out some courses and things like that too, because a lot of people come into membership and it's just on a wing and a prayer, or a tradition that's been passed down. And again, when the market is shifting, we got to think about membership in different ways. We got to be really strategic and smart about it. So that's my podcast, the Membership IQ.
And it's great. And it's short. It's like little nuggets of goodness.
Yeah.
Easy to
Yes.
digest.
Yes, which is a great kick in the butt. Thank you, Mindy, because I haven't podcasted here for a couple months. So I got to get back into the studio and catch up.
Nico has been keeping you busy.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, So, what are the elements that your process has involved with NAPO? And most of us have probably seen these come across either their email, maybe they got a special invitation to another event, but just talk a little bit more about what we've been seeing so far with our process together.
Yeah, so far, you likely saw a survey come through. So we sent out a survey to all the NAPO members. But not only that, we also sent a survey to people who aren't currently members. So that may mean that they used to be members and they've dropped their membership. It may mean that they go to all the events and they hang out at NAPO things, but they haven't actually joined. And we want to hear their perspective too. And then we also sent surveys to the staff and board because we also want to look at some leadership perspectives. And basically, what we're looking for across all of this is organizational alignment. Is everyone moving in the same direction? Are we aligned with market expectations and what people want and need from their NAPO experience? And the other thing we're doing is we're breaking down this data, especially with the member survey, by demographic, by age and career stage. Because if we just look at the kind of the macro trend and how the majority of people respond, and we know with the survey, the majority of people who responded were more experienced in their careers, well, then we're really negating the voices of younger people. So again, when we're looking at that alignment, we want to really analyze, okay, does it differ by generation? And if so, why, and where are the gaps, and how can we bridge that? So we're starting with surveys, and that's probably what you've seen come across your email so far.
And one of the most interesting, I'm glad you mentioned like breaking the data down by demographic because, and we jumped the gun a little bit with this recording because we actually have not received Sarah's full report yet. But I've just been so excited about this process, and I think it would be interesting for all of you to hear more about what NAPO is doing with this initiative. So that's why I invited Sarah on today. But
Sneak
one of
peek.
the most interesting pieces of information that I've already seen that you've already shared with us is that survey breakdown by demographic in terms of how different generations of members value different member benefits, right?
Yeah,
And so it was like
right.
our boomer generations really put a very high value on networking and connections with their peers. And then our younger generation, Gen Y, or Gen Z, they're all about education. So that was super interesting to be able to slice and dice the data that way and to see it from a different lens.
Yeah, and just pointing out like that little piece you just shared, there's layers to that, right? Because when you're starting out your career, you want information and education. Um, and you may also want that connection to community, but we know from experience working in this field, it takes a little bit more time and effort for young people to really feel that they are included. And so they may want networking, but they may feel like, well, I'm not connected. Um, I'm not ranking that high. What I'm really looking for is an immediate return on investment. This is what I value. This is what I need, and they're analyzing things through that lens, and so that speaks to some other elements. Like we have to be more intentional about outreach to young people. And again, I'm going to get geeky here for just a moment. I
I love
promise I could talk about this for hours, but I won't. But um but it's real interesting because the cycle to engagement has changed. So when you think about for boomers and xers, they were kind of taught that you go into a workplace or an organization like NAPO and you sit and you observe. You learn about the organization. You don't have a voice. You don't have a leadership opportunity. You observe. You're kind of a wallflower at first. And then you slowly get used to your surroundings and then you slowly begin to engage. But what's real interesting in our studies of this is we've seen that millennials and Gen Z go about it in a very different way. They're thinking, if I'm joining, that's like a statement about me personally. And so this is a very serious commitment for me. I intend to roll up my sleeves and I want to get involved instantaneously. I want something to do. I want to be meeting people. I want to, so when we see some little gaps like that in that data where young people are, maybe not so much networking, that yes, speaks to that instantaneous need for return on investment, but it also shows that they are feeling they're pushed to the side and they're being pushed in that wallflower capacity. So we
Mm.
really dive in and look at all these little nitty gritty details. It's fun and fascinating.
I love it. Okay, so so far in your work with NAPO, and again, we're kind of like midstream in the process,
Yeah.
but I'm very curious. So we just had a recent NAPO stakeholders meeting. I'd love to hear just your thoughts and observations about working with NAPO.
Right. So just to define, yes, stakeholders, we pulled together this kind of cross section of NAPO. We want a little petri dish, right? We don't want everyone who thinks the same or has the same experiences, but we pulled together people with the only one commonality. And their commonality is that they're all really future focused, very passionate about NAPO. So they may have been a member for a year, maybe for 20 years, but what I thought was really interesting about this little retreat we just had with stakeholders is that the level of passion for NAPO is so incredibly high, and the optimism, and people love this organization. On the survey, people could pick a word to that they thought best described NAPO, and overwhelmingly people chose community. And that might seem like a no-brainer, but in our projects with other associations, no, community is not always at the forefront. So I think people are in your uh, association are really saying, I want this to be spectacular. I want this to be my peer group, my special place, my place of belonging. And there are some connections already. And then if we can just leverage those, oh my gosh, and amp them up a little bit, NAPO's really going to grow and prosper.
Amazing. I love that you got the peek behind the curtain at how
Yeah,
spectacular our members are.
we are.
Yeah, I tell everyone who's outside of our profession looking in that I've just in my adult careers, I've never experienced a community that was so supportive. I think it might be because a lot of us are women, but we are sharing ideas, we're supporting each other. It doesn't feel like competition, even if you're in the same marketplace.
Right.
And that's
So
unique to NAPO.
oh my gosh, absolutely. And speaking of that, so did you find it interesting some of that demographic data? We pulled some data about the profession and the number of employees in the profession. And I was surprised to learn that the percentage of women is just slightly higher than the percentage of men working in this field. So, and NAPO is predominantly women. So there's an opportunity right there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All right. So let's look in the future. So when organizations are working with you and XYZ, Sarah, what results do they experience? So, what would that average member observe, and sort of setting the stage, like what can people expect from this in terms of outcomes?
Yeah, I love that question. All right, so outcomes as far as, for NAPO members, I'll start there. For you as members, you are going to, the ultimate goal here is for you to start seeing some change in a positive way, seeing more outreach, seeing some new programming or services roll out. You're just going to start seeing some momentum because we're going to develop a strategy that's designed with you, the members, in mind. and really tapped in, honed in on becoming more member centric and delivering on those expectations that you have of NAPO. So members will start seeing some change in a nutshell. I think what we often hear from those who are in leadership roles, whether it's staff or board or, leading a task force or committee, whatever the case may be, we often hear that they feel a greater sense of connectivity because there's greater alignment. And kind of we rustle through everything. We organize the organization group here. We look at what can be tossed, what can be revised, what do we need more of, where's more color needed, whatever, more organization, more hangers. So we're coming in, we're organizing things, and then leaders just feel so much more focused and rejuvenated. We hear that a lot. They just get real excited about the future, not unlike what you do as a profession. And then I think for the industry at large, um, one of the things we'll be doing is helping to position NAPO, yes, internally very strong. But the other objective here is to get to the point where we can start touting NAPO externally very strong through media, through other marketing and visibility initiatives and campaigns. And, I also hope that members really observe just an element of leadership, an element of fun, and just kind of electricity throughout the organization.
Well, that sounds very exciting. I can't wait. It has been a really unique and interesting process just seeing your work. And so, full disclosure for all of you who are watching, Sarah and I knew each other from another networking group, and she has held a board role in another national professional association in the past. So we were bonding over, being national board members of big associations. And I never quite understood what it was that she did. And now the fact that we're working together, it's just phenomenal to see you work, but also everything that you are teaching us is so relevant and really interesting. And I know that everyone I've heard from who was participating in the stakeholder retreat is feeling inspired and
Yeah.
optimistic about the future of NAPO. And that's exactly where we want to be right now. So thank
Yeah.
you for all of
That's
your work.
woohoo. That is so great. Well, thank you to NAPO for the invitation to work together and for being open-minded to this idea of, change, innovation, thinking about things a little bit differently. You'd be surprised how many organizations resist that. And it's so much better when you can come in and be like, yeah, we're game. We're going to try this, and it's a lot more fun that way.
It is. So I will be sharing a lot more information about NAPO's direction and our vision for the future and what types of changes we're going to be implementing as a result of all of this work at my State of NAPO address during our NAPO annual summit, which of course is April 3rd through the 6th in Long Beach, California. If you haven't already registered, there's still time, but I know that we are going to have incredible energy at that event as a result of a lot of what we've been talking about with XYZ. We just have a very future focused organization right now. So the conversations are elevated, and I think it's going to be really interesting and a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It's going to be amazing.
So, Sarah, thank you again for joining me today. It's always great to talk to you. And do you have any final words for all of our audience here who's watching this video?
I will just say one of my favorite quotes that I'll just leave you with is it comes from Steve Jobs, who always challenged his team to really question, is what we're doing relevant right now? And the phrase he would use is what we're creating right now a generation ahead or a generation behind? And I think for a long time, NAPO saw success and got comfortable in some of that success, like so many other organizations. And now we're really pausing to say, hold on, are we a generation ahead or a generation behind? And if it's the latter, now is the time to make change and to have fun doing it, not to fear it. So I'm excited to make change and do something that's a generation ahead at NAPO.
Amazing. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you all always for your time and your attention today. And look for me again next month with more exciting news about what's going on up NAPO. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Mindy.